Thank you very much, Captain Flowers. Welcome to the World's Cooldown, where we break down day one of groups and look forward to tomorrow's matches. But Vitality!
I don't know.
What just happened?
Why Deficio and Vedius are stressed all the time. This EU thing, this feels great right now.
You're loving that move.
Oh, yeah.
Loving that
Grass
move.
much greener.
Spawn, help me out here. This was so unexpected.
I don't got much for you, to be honest, because when we were talking about this game, we were saying, you know what, if they throw that first punch, if they pick the early game snowball, they can start something happening. When you're ahead, anything is possible in League of Legends. And they say, you know what, we're fine getting to level 9, this is okay, we're going to scale. And then it isn't actually individual mechanics, although there were a lot of individual mechanics on display. It was actually late game creative shot calling that won Vitality this game. So, I mean, they're ticking every box at the moment.
I do want to give massive credit, though, to that super creative composition. As we take a look at this end game, Jizuke, I had some questions. I was like, you know that this guy has a huge ceiling, but I haven't really seen him reach it again. I feel like he was in a little bit of a hole. This game played like an absolute god. Some of his 1v1 outplays, particularly that Syndra flash, making the creative call that Jake is talking about right now to also call Attila for the double TP, just out of world.
And we criticized TL at the top of the show, just to juxtapose.
Yeah.
They played okay, but they didn't make any of their own plays. They were kind of on the back foot. This is a team that played not great in Windows, but in other windows, just made their play through the, the game-winning play multiple times. And they were just able to continually, try and dance around and look for positioning and took the opportunities.
Misfits, Gigabyte Marines. These are all teams in the past that have done exactly that have honed in on their style, the way that they want to play. They commit to plays and fully commit as a team of 5.
That's a great example of a team fight. We just saw it there. We see an Ornn ulti thrown for the flashes. It just misses everyone. If you miss Ornn ultimate altogether, you're like, that's not a team fight we can win. But time and time again, they go for it. Another great play. We're overextending. We're fighting the whole time underneath the turret. This is an additional man. Remember, turret's heat up. It doesn't reset anymore.
This fight
Everyone's
took like
just
2
taking
minutes.
turret aggro, and they're just still going for it.
But what's great is how they break down these team fights. The fact is that Gen.G, they're such a great team fighting team, but they're a very controlled team fighting team. You know, when Vitality did finally overreach kind of into the pocket and try to dive too deep on that mid lane tower, Gen.G bit back so hard. But when you are constantly having 4v5s, 3v4s, because there's such a far reach with the mobility, I think the composition was super creative to always deny a true 5v5.
You saw a few of those moments there, right, for Gen.G. When they are grouped, when they're allowed to group as 5 and make the decision, it almost always works out in their favor.
Well, that's the thing. This wasn't a perfect game. I'm not sitting here trying to sell you the fact that, Vitality is playing clean, crisp, well thought out, like big brain League of Legends. They're just looking at opportunities and saying, can we make a play right now?
Yeah.
And when the answer is yes, they just go for it. Some of them backfired. We just saw a guy teleport onto a ward, get killed instantly, nearly cost his team Baron. But ultimately, that's not how the game worked out.
We can come back and talk about this a bit more on the other side, but to hear more about the first victory at Worlds for Vitality, let's hand it off to Avali and the mid laner.
Thanks, guys. I am here with the Italian stallion Vitality's Jizuke. Congratulations on that win. You had the Baron steal, you had the backdoor, and then you beat the world champions. What was going through your head during that game-ending moment, and how were you able to pull it off?
I think we did many mistakes in early game, but then with some team fights, we came back. And then we were just winning every fight and going ahead, but then we got stuck. We couldn't win anymore for some reason. We stopped making plays and stuff. So we are like, hey, me and Kicks are saying, there is a wave top. I think we should TP there, and then the game, they will go Elder. And we just did it, and it worked out. I'm happy.
Predicted it and it worked out, but I want to kind of point to your Echo pick because that's kind of a comfort pick for you. And earlier today, they didn't ban Heimer against Yarnan, and G2 ended up picking up the win. So what's up with these teams not banning or doing their research on EU comfort picks, and when do you think they're going to wise up?
I think it's pretty normal for Koreans to disrespect. In scrims as well, I don't know, maybe there is a confident pick that someone has, but they want to keep trying to play into it and just see if it's good or not. So I'm not surprised that they didn't ban it. Maybe I had 1 game or 2 games in EU, so maybe they thought that I don't play it really much, but I guess they were wrong.
Now, people have been nicknaming your group the Group of Death. Is it because RNG and Gen.G are in it? Or do you think it's because you guys are now in that group?
I guess we will see. It's definitely an hard group. RNG just won everything this year. Gen.G are world champions. They actually made a song about a mission. I thought if he ganked me today on mid, the Rise song will come up. Just Rise, you know? Yeah, it's our group, and we'll try our best to get out.
Jizuke, thank you and congratulations again on the win. That's it for us here. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Avali. Group B, a very interesting group in that we called it the group of death. The idea that the 1-2 were predetermined.
Yep.
Cloud9, Vitality, yes, Cloud9 got knocked down against RNG, but this huge win for Vitality, it shakes the group up, right? But I do want to turn to you, Frost, around the point of, does this mean that we lose all faith in Korea, as a region for having that loss here on day one?
Oh yeah, of course, Dashburn. Everything's down.
It's over.
Korea yeah. 2 losses. No one is going to say that Korea aren't still heavy favorites.
Yeah.
KT is still looking great. I think it is very interesting that I feel like Afrika and Gen.G lost in similar ways in terms of the criticism being that they weren't proactive. When they finally did take things into their own hands, when Afrika and Gen.G decided to play the aggressive side and make a play, it was so cleanly executed. But perhaps we are starting to see this idea where when the LCK teams do want to play a bit slower, when they're forced and they're a bit rushed, that they're not quite as confident shooting from the hip as we would have expected. And that said, Griffin, not here. This is Gen.G. This is Afrika. Maybe very different temperaments. Maybe they take a bit more time to ramp up. That is usually the case for LCK teams. But it is an interesting possible heel that other teams could look at in terms of a blueprint to try to force more errors.
I think for Afrika's sake, you can also say, in Korea, World Championship first day, nerves. I guarantee that they're feeling the heat right now because there is a lot of expectations on the entire region, not just KT. But I think that on Gen.G's side, I had a little bit higher expectations in saying that they do warm into tournaments. They haven't played for a while. And once again, as Jizuke said, maybe they were a little bit disrespectful in terms of pocket picks. All I know off the back end of this stage is that Jizuke has made me like a lifelong fan. That interview even afterwards, he's the right level of I am humble, but I'll also take my shots when they're there. And that was just a great representation of that.
He had multiple mechanical outplays in his first game here on the world stage against some of the best players in the world. That is absolutely insane to be able to say. We've touched on a number of the teams already, but Spawn, you were the analyst at the top of the day that said you would take the field over RNG or KT to win it all. Interestingly enough, a few of the names that you had topping the field were the ones that actually fell today. But how does basically your assessment of the field develop at the end of day one?
Well, the best thing about the field is they're now beating the field. So instead of crossing names off, I'm just adding names in there. All of a sudden, I got Afrika, I got Gen.G, I got the Flash Wolves, they're performing great. I can add G2 in there now. I can add Vitality. These are legitimate field picks that you need to be worried about, Frosker. And I think, it's just day number one. And this is what's exciting about Worlds, is you have to now take that, and if it gets banned away, show something else. Or if they give it to you again, you have to be able to once again play that to the same high level, because all of these teams, they're within 5-10% of each other. They're going to bring it every single time. And for Gen.G, for the Afrikas, they also have to go away from this and say, what do we do wrong? And they're going to make it right in a day turnaround. And that's a difficult skill for coaching staff, for players to say, you know what, guys, deep breath. We've done this all year long. Let's just continue it. Sure, it is the final test of the year, but let's not lose our heads and overreact to this.
And then ultimately, I kind of have the same, question to be begging as we go closer through this group stage. When Afrika fell down, if one of the LCK seeds is the second seed out of groups, the possibility of running into another LCK team in something like the quarterfinals, again, maybe we don't have an LCK versus LCK final this year simply because they just knock each other out because of these group stage missteps.
And I'm telling you, even after today's performance, you ask RNG and KT who they don't want to play, top 3 teams in quarterfinals. Afrika will still be in that, I don't want to get Afrika in a best of 5, because they just do some crazy stuff and they flip the map on a lot of teams. A lot of teams have great AD carries. Not many teams can boast a player like Keen in the top lane, and they are still terrifying.
One of the most interesting things, in my opinion, when it comes to the group stage is this point you're talking about. Off of day one, off of the upsets, the unexpected victories, or the matchups that don't go the way that maybe scrim results had suggested they would, how teams react to that. You've now seen Jizuke's Echo in that mid lane. You've seen, how comfortable he is on the pick, how much he's willing to play make on that pick. What do you choose to do now as a team going forward when you go up against Vitality? Are you going to throw a ban at that every single time?
You always have to stick to your game. This is what not scrimming your own group and scrimming everyone else does. It creates weird metas, especially if teams are only scrimming their region. So I think, this is one of those times where you have to say, they're going to give us something new every time. We just have to play what we're comfortable in, and you hope that you're a classy enough team that you win enough games to get out.
I would say I do have more faith and confidence that Vitality would be able to continue to reach for not necessarily just pocket picks, but just very strange picks that might catch teams off guard. And then the list gets very long about who you're banning versus someone like G2. That said, we've already seen RNG throw the respect ban to the Draven for Cloud9, worked very effectively for them. So maybe that's just the gear shift that the LCK teams or all of the teams in the tournament start taking.
Because the big question is, like, the Echo in particular, I wouldn't ban because you got things like Fizz that do the same thing in the mid lane. Heimerdinger kind of just, only Heimerdinger kind of does what Heimerdinger is. You can make an exception for maybe Vel'Koz, can do similar things in the bottom lane, keep pushing you in, keep annoying you. Can't play it in the playing stage. But Heimer really is niche in what he brings to a team.
That I think is an interesting distinction when you look at the G2 win versus the Vitality win, is that G2 did it with this Heimerdinger pick, and that seems like it's a very narrow win condition, is, we need to secure this pick. I'm not saying that's the only reason they won. They actually played the matchup pretty well from a macro sense, but Vitality's win felt a little bit more like they could recreate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was also in the cross-map play for both G2 as well as Vitality, and when you beat a LCK team, you never expect it to be on a macro or cross-map level. You expect that some sort of snowball or a weird pick or things just got really out of hand and the games were closed early. But the fact that Vitality were comfortable going into a late game, that they were able to play with the teleports, the same thing that G2 did, making the TP with the top lane Heimer, it's just a play style and a strength of Europe that we didn't expect to see them outclass LCK on day one.
And I think more impressive, both of them got slowed down at a certain point. Wunder did have to go to the bottom lane for an extended period of time. Even after he took the first inhibitor, we saw him back away, didn't want to push him for that late game situation. In this game, we saw Jizuke go for a teleport play, die, have to slow the tempo of the game down. But the impressive thing was they kept their head, they reevaluated the situation, and they re-accelerated the game at the correct time. And I think that is the difference between, potentially these teams winning those games versus teams previously going late game versus the LCK against Korea and dropping those games, was the ability to stick to the game plan, still throw the curve.
Composure on the world stage cannot be understated. Though we are just getting started, let's go ahead and take a look at the current group rankings. In Group A, Flash Wolves and G2 end the day at 1-0, with Group B led by Gen.G and Vitality, and Group C is topped with Edward Gaming and KT Rolster. Of course, we haven't seen Group D play yet. They will start their games tomorrow. Realizing we've had a number of discussions already about the results, the fact that Korea went 1-2 on the day is going to be surprising. For the West, to see Europe pick up 2 of those victories, that's a big boost to the confidence. Of course, Cloud9 and Team Liquid, we're going to look for them to follow suit. Maybe what lessons do they take from the victories that they saw?
Who's the scariest team at Worlds at the moment? Is it RNG?
Yes.
Okay, so apart from RNG, who else really impressed you today? Was it Flash Wolves or KT?
Flash Wolves.
Yeah, because I think relative power-wise, obviously very hard cross groups, and it's going to get more interesting as the day goes on. But I thought Flash Wolves kind of proved it was their meta today, and I think that's the other big takeaway. I didn't talk about them when I talk about the field, but I think if Flash Wolves can continue to dictate that meta in all of their games, teams will very much have to start taking a look at the LMS's first seed, because they have had a very impressive year.
I think it's a very different feel, though, if you will, or kind of instinct when you look at these teams. Like Flash Wolves, they almost look like they were toying with their food, that they were having a lot of fun. You look at their player cams, they're smiling, they're laughing, they're doing the Flash Wolves thing. KT, they never felt that they were pushed. They always felt like they were in control. They were just very calm, collected, cold-blooded killers is what they really look like. So I just prefer the Flash Wolves style. It's a little bit closer to the LPL, a little bit closer to what I'm used to, but KT also looked very terrifying.
Yeah, I was going to say, to me, yes, the Flash Wolves game felt more dominant. It was quite obviously so in a lot of ways, but I don't feel like KT needed to play any more dominantly, if that makes sense. Like, the KT got the job done, which is in a lot of ways what I do expect of a top-tier team, is to come in and do what is needed and to not necessarily do more, especially when you have the longevity. You have this very long tournament ahead of you.
And they're a very experienced team. It's just interesting to see what it's going to take for someone else to join the S-tier teams.
Yeah.
Because we've currently got 2 S-tier teams. And as this progresses, you know, Flash Wolves is, at the moment, probably that front runner to join the S-tier teams and prove that, you know, quarterfinals, semifinals, you don't want to get them either.
6 games in the books for the group stage. Let's take a look at who were Busan's first MasterCard players of the game. It was KT's Yukao, EDG's iBoy, Flash Wolves' Mujin, G2 Wonder, RNG's Uzi, and Vitality's Jizuke.
And the thing is probably the most standout players for me were Uzi and Jizuke. And maybe that's, you know, recency bias. We just saw them, but I just felt that we had incredible performance from all of these players today. It's obviously why they're our MasterCard players of the game. But those 2 in particular just went above and beyond even what we expected from them.
But they are kind of the stars. The 2 players that I actually want to point out are going to be Yukao and Mujin, because they're 2 players that Yukao was supposed to be the worst player in his lineup, came out, had a dominating performance against Pobelter, and then Mujin really followed suit after Sword Art and was exactly where Sword Art needed him to go. Obviously, Sword Art being the shot caller of the team makes it very easy. You just listen to the guy show up. But so many times junglers aren't able to execute upon that. And I think that he also had a standout performance.
Yeah, I do think, too, you got to look at Wonder. If, you know, we are to take World's top 20 rankings into account, this idea that you've got the best top laner in the tournament up against Wonder. Yes, it is a tank versus carry matchup, and who knows what would happen if you swap the roles. But for Wonder to come out on top in that one, to create that kind of pressure and ultimately the situation for G2 to win, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, 4th place on that list. Like, let me just tell you, I put Clear Love there 2 years ago. It's not pretty being for 4th
They're
place
just
on the
cursed.
top
Anything
20.
but 4th
Yeah,
when it
you
comes
just
to League of
you
Legends.
want to be like 6th over the 4th place at this stage. But yeah, I agree with you. And Sion is supposed to deal with the carries very well in the early game, and Wonder was still able to build the lead. So hats off to him. The impressive thing about Wonder was he didn't change his style between play-ins and Worlds. And he was playing with nameplates off. He was just playing the matchup well, playing calmly, even after the early game went a little bit rough for him and Yankos up there in the top lane. So I think that is an impressive, you know, mature way to approach the game.
Well, 6 more games tomorrow, and it kicks off with Flash Wolves and a Freak of Freaks facing off for the very first time. With the introduction of Group D later in the day, starting with a clash between 100 Thieves and Fnatic, followed by Invictus Gaming versus G-Rex, and 3 more matches before we call it a day. So, of course, we will get a better sense of competition after day 2. We've got a lot of East versus East and West versus West matchups. But in particular, of these 6, I want to know from you guys what you're interested in seeing.
I mean, do you want to take the softball one, or am I going to grab it?
You can go for it if you want.
Okay, Gen.G versus RNG.
6th game of the day. That closer is going to be nuts.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that we hope that Gen.G will show back up, but these 2 teams have a long-standing history with each other. They constantly seem to find each other in the group stage. This is very possibly a look at a finals, really.
Yes.
Because if they go 1st and 2nd, they split up. Then if they run their side of the brackets, it could be, you know, the world final. However, if this is how good Vitality is, if this is how good G2 is, imagine what their 1st seed's going to do. Fnatic, like, just absolute monsters in their own region. They're going up against 100 Thieves, who a lot of people think might be the proverbial punching bag of this World's tournament. So that could be an explosive game if Fnatic bring their A game.
G2 was supposed to be the punching bag, and they just, like, sucker punch back.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you underestimate a punching bag, I guess.
Hey, man, like we said at the top of the day, it's World's group stage, anything can happen, and that's exactly what did happen today. But that's going to do it for day 1. We'll be back here tomorrow for day 2. So for myself, the cast of the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for more of Worlds 2018.
Welcome to the world, no heroes, villains. Welcome to the world, no heroes, villains.
Are you ready?
As Costa June said, welcome to Summoner's Rift. It's KT Rolster taking on Team Liquid. Right, there's no flash on Double Lift. He's got around 300 hit points. There's the flash to play. Knock-up used onto Mata. Teleport coming down. Mata's still a focus. Manages to go down. Double Lift gets a 2nd kill. Flash forward from Yukao onto Pobelter. Manages to get the stun. Here comes Score as well. Pobelter starts to channel around one. Drops down, gets out, but the burn is not enough. Xmithy gets chunked down. Let somebody heal, keeps him alive a few seconds longer. Long range death sentence. Connects up to Impact. And look at the lantern. KT Rolster take down Team Liquid for their 1st win at Worlds 2018. Big Cora flashes forward, blows up the AD carry for Fengwu Buffalo. Betsy gets himself a kill onto Pallet. Nexus turret number 2 falls. And the Flash Wolves are making a statement. absolutely destroy Monguba. Till jump puts Uniboy exactly where Haro wants him. But he decides not to go for the kill. Haro's caught out.
Oh, way back. Oh, he's not done yet.
Boom! The splash! Oh boy! What? Uniboy gets burst down and blown up by iBoy. The call of the fourth shot comes out. That's a double already as EDG are looking for the advantage. And Edward Gaming take down Mad Team.
Stay cool, make sure that you slow down time. Don't let your mind get lost.
Still going to be taken down. Crown with the damage on that one. Cuvee grabbing the kill onto Jack Troll into the follow-up fear. And Gen.G is destroying Vitality. Vitality in retreat now. Cuvee on the front line. Looking for the kill. But Jizuke, the man with the plan, has the shutdown.
Stop this guy. Keep pushing, keep pushing.
End it.
Keep pushing. I'm stopping this guy. Keep pushing.
The dark here.
Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing.
Yonai!
Vitality will take them down. They need this Urgot to be so far ahead because bottom lane just keeps. And now Uzi's got himself his second kill of the game. Heroic entrance still looking to keep Uzi alive. They take down Zazel, and RNG hasn't lost a man. Also down critical HP, but Licorice has been shut down. That one's going to be big for RNG, and with Zazel also out, this could very well be the end of the game. Freaka, what are you doing? Still putting in work on the enemy base. Spirit's going to be taken down to half HP. Stun coming in from the grenade. Spirit is deleted. Turret falls at the Nexus. Afrika, you've got to answer. Kramer's nearly going to be taken down. Take a drink. Ginkles goes on a killing spree. Team's nearly going to be